We have two people via FaceTime, Jonathan, Ayana, Troy, Melissa, Connie, Tawanda. Great. Thank you guys for coming. I'm going to start by asking how many of you saw a homeless person today? A homeless vet on the street. How many of you know what causes homelessness?
Drugs.
Thanks, Troy. The point of my speech is hopefully understanding the needs of the homeless vet population and assisting them with what benefits are offered to them. We can end the homeless vet population together. We're going to discuss what it is to be homeless, who it affects, why it happens, and how we can help. I'd like to start with a definition by the National Healthcare for Homeless Council. The definition through them for homelessness is any individual without permanent housing who may live on the street, in a shelter or mission, or an abandoned building or car, or any other unstable, non-permanent situation. So you may want to ask, how many homeless vets are there? Out of the entire homeless population, only 11% are vets. On any given night in the United States, there are 40,056 people sleeping on the street that are veterans. Out of that, 90% are men, 10% are women. Out of this 10% of women, 90% of them have children. They're single moms with kids. Out of this 90% of men, only 2% have children and they're with families. Again, with this graph here, 50% of those people are white. The other 50% are non-white, which is kind of strange because out of the entire vet population, only 14% are not white. So you may ask, how old are these people? 9% are under the age of 30. 41% are between 30 and 50, and half are 51 and older. And there's still another 1.4 million vets that are at risk of being homeless. Now we understand what homelessness is and who it affects. Let's ask why. Do you think it's just an excuse to be lazy? According to the U.S. Vet magazine, the common challenges during readjustment to civilian life include things like reestablishing their role with their family. Now they're back, they've got to figure out where they fit in with their kids and their family. Returning to work, they may have a new position, or they may have to learn new skills because things in their company have changed, or it may be something as bad as having to catch up for everything they missed while they were gone. They have difficult times looking for work. Some people have been in the military their entire career. Now you're out. If you're a mechanic in the National Guard, great, you can be a mechanic in the civilian life. What does a sniper put on their resume when they go looking for a job as a civilian? Hiding under a bush and shooting someone in the head from 400 feet is not a job description for a civilian contractor. Other things is learning to provide the basics. In the military, your food, your housing, your clothing, everything is covered for you, even your medical. When you transition out into the civilian life, you have to figure out the VA's system and all their paperwork associated with it. Out of these people, 80% of our homeless vets have a mental issue or an addiction. For men, it's PTSD, which is an extreme emotional trauma involving threats and injuries. For women, they have what's called MST, which is military sexual trauma. 90% of women that are dismissed with the MST have been assaulted by people they know in their own units. 53% of our disabled vets have physical disabilities, amputations, seizures, traumatic brain injuries, and burns. A lot of them don't work, they don't have a living. You can't live, you don't have a home. If they do get disability benefits, half of their paycheck goes just for housing, so there's no way they can live on that other half, so they end up homeless. And then another 90% of the vets that are homeless just have no support network, no family, no friends outside of the military service. Now let's talk about how we can help. What can I do to help the vets that are homeless? You can volunteer your time. Sometimes just letting them know that somebody cares is enough for them. You can give to local charities. According to one website I looked at, there are 5 top charities for veterans. There's the Disabled American Veterans. They believe in leading high-quality lives of respect and dignity, and they assist in becoming productive, self-sufficient members of society. There is the Iraq-Afghanistan Veterans of America, which was founded by an Afghan vet, and they believe in using their master's degrees in helping people get service dogs and assistance with homelessness and unemployment. There's the National Coalition for Homeless Vets. They work with the local, state, and federal government for emergency housing and food, health services, and job training. You have the U.S. Vets, which specialize in post-9/11 vets, and they work most with female veterans to attain the highest level of independence, and they're also the largest non-for-profit, and they have successfully transitioned most vets into permanent housing situations, and they offer counseling for careers and developmental support. And last is the Volunteers of America, and they do a lot of emergency work, giving shelter and transitional housing as well. The Department of Labor in 2015 has started a new program. It provides services to assist in reintegration for homeless vets into meaningful employment within the labor force. They offer jobs tax credits for employing vets. They train vets and give them the education they need to find new and better jobs to care for their families and themselves. And they also give a housing allowance. The criteria that I found for supporting the goal of ending the vet population: first, the community needs to identify all vets, and for this, they consider a vet any person that has served active duty regardless of length of time and regardless of what discharge they received. The community must provide immediate shelter to anyone who needs it or wants it. They need to assess the shelter and make sure that it's not contingent on sobriety, minimum income levels, or lack of criminal record. The community provides service-intensive training, and only in limited instances. So if someone is getting rehab, they can use the limited, but then they're assessed every month to be moved up into permanent. They need to make sure that the community has the capacity to assist the vets swiftly and to move them into permanent housing using the first principles and practices for housing for vets. The community also needs to have resources, plans, partnerships, and systems in place to identify and address any housing and service needs of the veterans. In closing, I'd like to remind you that homelessness is anyone who lacks a stable, permanent living situation. 40,056 men and women a night are homeless on the streets that are vets. 1.4 million are still at risk. 90% of our vets are men, and out of the 10% women, 90% have children that they take care of. Mental and physical disabilities affect the majority of our vets, 80% mental, 53% physical. And all you need to do is volunteer, give, and support. Support the leaders in making initiatives for the homeless vets. In closing, I'd like to quote Martin Luther King Jr. "Somewhere along the way, we must learn that there is never a greater than to do something for others." Thank you, guys. Does anybody have any questions?
Good job.
Questions? Questions?
No.
Okay, we're going to turn it over to Melissa for my critique.
Okay, what do I do, read these?
You just have to ask what I did good.
Okay, what did the speaker do well? Examples, organization, what?
She articulated her words.
Okay.
I would say good articulation as well as good data and information delivery.
Is there anything to improve on?
Is there anything to improve on?
No.
No, you did a
I
good
think
job.
you did good. Unanimous.
And that's a wrap.